It's time to introduce this week's panelists. First up, you might know him for his role as co-pilot Murdoch in the movie Airplane. He's also the author of numerous books, including the latest, Stealing the Game. And he was pretty good at basketball, too. Everybody, warm round of applause for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
She is a sharp-eyed stand-up with a chart-topping podcast. In her new special, Knock Knock, it's Tig Notaro, airs on Showtime on April 17th. Let's hear it for, that's right, Tig Notaro, everybody. Thanks for joining us, first of all. And I got to say, there was a lot of stories that attracted interest on HuffPost this week, none more so than the continuing drama around Indiana's religious freedom law.
Yes.
It started off with the signing, and then we had the backlash, and then we had the latest, which was this face-saving amendment, which basically took away and said they couldn't discriminate, which was the whole point of the law in the first place.
Exactly. I think it's now called the Please Don't Take Our Convention Center Money Away from Us bill.
Yeah. I think that's the official name.
It's a really, really tough situation right now because so much is happening with this law. So many things are being said. But, Kareem, you wrote a piece that I thought was really interesting. You said that this law in Indiana at the time was almost like instituting Sharia law in America.
Well, it would be the same thing because they're creating a situation where you have to be negative about people exercising their rights. You have to force into law things that don't allow people their free expression. And what's that all about? You know, that's tyranny, and we don't need that.
And it's dangerous. I mean,
yeah.
It's pretty dangerous, right?
Yeah. So, Tig, though, is there maybe a silver lining? Because the way I'm looking at it is this: the backlash was so intense and it was so quick. I think how much we've changed. 2004, all those states voted against marriage equality, and then here we are, just 10 years later, and it wasn't just gay activists. It was companies like Walmart and Apple standing up and saying, no, this is not going to stand. So, do you feel heartened by that part of it, at least?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it goes to show the importance of people coming out, even though I think that everyone needs to in their own time, in their own way, but it shows the power of when a neighbor or family member, somebody knows somebody that's gay, it keeps, there's a domino effect of acceptance. It becomes weird when you aren't accepting.
Does this feel like the last gasp, sort of like they're going down for the last time,
I was struck by the number of people who were like legislators. I remember there was one legislator whose nephew, I think, was going to marry another man, and he decided that he had to change his attitude about it because this is somebody that he loved and respected. Yeah. And finally, he got it. So I think that as people, their ability to understand that these people are family, even though they are different, they are still family, and we have to treat them with a certain amount of respect.
Famously, Dick Cheney even changed his views.
That's the one thing he's like.
The one good thing that he did.
What I wonder about, though, is this idea that every time a white male, straight Protestant loses something, they act like the sky is falling, like their whole world is being destroyed. Like 80% of America is still like Christian, and yet they're acting as if Christians are suddenly the religious oppressed minority in this country. How does that happen? What's going on? Roy, you're a rich white man.
Yeah, wait.
Why are you so damn mad?
I'm mistaken for a rich white man.
Don't steal my Christmas. I don't like it when you steal Christmas. And I don't want to sell you pizza. No, but Kareem, is this sort of a strange thing, this victimization of the majority?
I think it's people regretting the loss of an illusion. There was an illusion that everybody was straight and nobody was gay for a long time. I remember back in the 50s, nobody gay, maybe there's, who was on TV? Liberace, maybe? I don't know. But
right. Maybe Liberace.
That was about it.
And he wasn't even out of the closet. He was just on TV with the
comic relief.
Yeah.
He was something that people laughed at him, secretly, and they say, and it was a wink and nod, and that's dead now.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what's happened. People are starting to deal with reality, and that's good. We have to deal with reality and understand people for who they are and allow them to be who they are.
I still do find it a little scary, though. So, you know, there was that story about the pizza owner who wouldn't sell pizza to the gay couple and had to close the shop. And then somebody started like a Kickstarter campaign, and they've already made $500,000. So is this sort of like, you know, all the angry, aggrieved Christian people going, oh, we're going to show them, we're going to give the money?
Yes.
Yes.
That's what they do.
Does that scare you? $500,000?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's so odd to think at what point, when you're denying people services based on who they are, it's like you're removing their homes, food. It's sickening. You know, it's what's that?
You know, they talk they don't want to serve at a wedding, and I wonder, you know, how many people want pizza at their wedding anyway? You know.
But I mean, is there an argument? And again, I am not in support of this argument, but they could make the case that their particular understanding of their faith is that they're not supposed to support gay wedding, and so they're like, I don't want to be a part of it. It's one thing to serve you pizza at the game; it's another thing to serve it at a wedding.
But what I don't get, like a florist won't want to give a gay couple flowers. What's that all about? I mean that's just using your bias, using your ability to affect these people and inflicting your bias on them, and you know, giving them a few.
No, I agree. I guess what I'm asking is, do they have their are these bad people who are just trying to be using religion as an excuse to be discriminatory, or do they actually just have their religion wrong, or are they just reading the world wrong?
I'm more interested if the florist is straight.
That's a good point.
What happened there?
Yeah. Now, that seems like the easy zone. Like, we could definitely get our flowers. The pizza, I can see the pizza. You know, when you peek behind the curtain, okay, well.
Kareem, you know, so interestingly enough, the Final Four is this weekend in Indiana.
Right.
Do you think the NCAA should have said we're going to move it, or was that a bridge too far?
I don't think it was a bridge too far. They raised their voice, and that was a good thing. I thought they have gay athletes that they have to represent, and I'm glad they raised their voice, because athletics are for everybody, not just for straight people. So you know, the fact that in the realm of sports you could discriminate like that, people don't like that, and it really made the people in Indiana think, and I'm glad that the thought process is starting to catch on.
If you were
I was worried there for a while.
If you were playing in the Final Four, if you were an athlete in the Final Four right now, would you play in the game?
It all depends on, you know, how I would interpret their attempt to remedy what they did and said.
So what other stories were in the news?
Yeah, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about Angelina Jolie. She made the news this week. She made her first public appearance since revealing that she'd undergone preventative surgery to have her ovaries and her fallopian tubes removed. She had gotten an inflammatory marker that suggested that she could have cancer, and so she just got everything taken care of through a surgical procedure. And you two are both cancer survivors. Yes. What does it mean for someone to go public with this type of information?
Those genetic markers are very accurate. They're finding out now a lot of things about various cancers, and genetic markers definitely influence cancers. That's why people inherit them through their family, and sometimes genetic anomalies cause cancer. So those genetic markers are very accurate, and she wants to live a long life and raise her children and love her husband. So, you know, I don't blame her.
I feel like whatever, I mean, having cancer, it's just so, it can be a scary diagnosis. And I think that, I don't think you can judge or, people need to do what makes them feel safe in,
No, and you famously did a concert at Carnegie Hall, and you took your shirt off and sort of did half the concert there. It was
not at Carnegie Hall.
Wasn't it Carnegie Hall?
Thank you. Yes.
Really? Practice, practice, practice. That's how you get there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, let's just say it was at Carnegie Hall.
Yeah. Where was it? It was the Improv, lower in the
it was
the basement.
At Town Hall in New York. But yeah, I took my shirt off.
Were you trying to say something to the other people in the audience, like this is a public statement of?
Well, it was certainly not a private statement. I took my shirt off because, you know, it dawned on me how taboo it is to be topless, whether you have a double mastectomy or not as a woman. And I was thinking how, you know, I had cancer, and so that's a big deal. but having scars is not. And all it is that my body healed. My skin healed. I don't have nipples. I just have 2 scars across my chest. But it's really, if I had a scar on my face, I would hope nobody would ask me to wear a bag over my head, you know? And so it's just a very simple thing. It's not a big deal. And the audience told me that, you know, when I took my shirt off, their head exploded, and then 10 seconds later, they completely forgot and were listening to my stand-up. And so that's what I was hoping, is for people to talk about body issues, cancer, talk about my comedy, you know, talk about it all.
Now, Kareem, is it tougher? Oh, sorry, yes, please.
Yeah, let's not talk over that.
You can't, that's gold. You can't. Kareem, is it different for not just a man, but for an athlete? You know, it's sort of this virility, this machismo, to say, you know, I'm not well. Is it a tougher thing to make public?
No, I don't think so. I think that being able to raise awareness, it made me feel good. As soon as I announced about my cancer, people started talking to me. A really good friend, if you've ever been to the Staples Center, the announcer, Lawrence Tanter, he hadn't been to the doctor in 10 years.
Wow.
And I said, I'm going to kill you. Cancer isn't going to, I'm going to kill you unless you get to the doctor, because you have to go get regular checkups. So, you know, just being able to raise consciousness among people that I cared about, and then it went far beyond that. People that I don't know started to react with me, and it made me feel good about taking that chance, because, you know, at first I didn't know if I wanted to do that, but it's helped people get an idea of how to take care of themselves. So I think I've done a good thing, and I'm glad I did it.
Have we done enough about cancer so far? I know we have all the campaigns, we talk about it a lot, but I remember when President Bush said we were going to have no more cancer in a few generations. Bill Clinton said it'll just be a zodiac sign pretty soon, and yet we still have cancer, and we don't really have a lot of advancement. We see advances with HIV, even Ebola, we saw quick advancements. With cancer, it doesn't seem like we're moving the ball as much as we'd hoped.
We are moving the ball now. I was just involved a couple of weeks ago. I went to D.C. The targeted medicine campaign is working, and let's say where there were only a couple of cancers that we could kind of cope with. Yeah. Now that they're starting to understand the genetic component, they're able to treat and identify more cancers, and they're finding ways to cure more cancers as they move along. There's starting to be some movement now, and it's given a lot of people hope. So President Obama is trying to get Congress to fund cancer research, and it's actually a bipartisan campaign. It's not just the Democrats. It's you know, Republicans too want to see some change here.
Well, even with breast cancer, I mean, that's one of the more treatable and more treatable cancers that around.
I mean, we look at it, and I think maybe that's part of it, is we have this monolithic thing, you know, cancer, like it's one thing, but there's about 200 cancers, right? There's 200 different kinds of cancers. Right. So is that part of the problem? It's like it's thing that's, I mean, it's touched every one of us in some way. Has it become just maybe in some ways we sort of take it for granted, oh, that's always going to be there?
For the longest time we did, but now that this progress is happening, there's a change. I think there's a sea change now.
Yeah. That's great. So let's go to our third story that we want to talk about here, which was this one. You might remember this one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Trevor Noah. He was named the new host of The Daily Show, and within 24 hours, he had some tweets that were uncovered. People felt that they were misogynistic or anti-Semitic or perhaps just not funny. Now, this is an area...
shocked.
What's that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is an area that we care a lot about here on the HuffPost Show. It's something that we're trying to do. Comedy that pushes the limits, comedy that goes too far. You know, we also saw Lena Dunham. This, you know, just at the end of last week, she wrote a piece for The New Yorker in which it was a quiz. You had to figure out, was it her dog or a Jewish boyfriend? She got a lot of pushback for that. So Tig, as a comedian, can you go too far? Is there such a thing as comedy that goes too far?
You're going to go too far with anybody. Anybody's going to go too far for somebody. I mean, I'm not and wasn't typically a boundary-pushing comedian. I think that when I had cancer and did my show, and then took my shirt off at another show. You know, to some people, that's too much. And even on my podcast this week, cancer came up, and our guest was like, "Now that's a topic that's not funny. There's no humor there." And it's like,
does everybody have that thing that's not funny to them? Like, we laugh at everything except that one thing.
I think that is true, but it's going to be out there, and you make the decision if you're going to buy the ticket, go to the show, support the network, the host, and if you decide not, you should go spend your time promoting what you think is fantastic and put more energy into that, I think.
Yeah.
When people are, react because someone might have gone, in their opinion, too far, they'll probably push back. So, it just has to be a two-way street where sometimes you may push too far, but you have to understand when people push back that you've gone too far and lighten up a little bit.
Does it matter what race you are? Like, for example...
Of course it does.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, like he's 25% Jewish, and some of his comments were considered to be anti-Semitic. If he's... What?
Well, the question is, how Jewish do you have to be? Do you have to be Jackie Mason Jewish? The very few people are Jackie Mason.
Nobody's that Jewish, yeah. But
Lena Dunham's half Jewish. Trevor Noah's 25% Jewish.
Right.
I mean, how black do you have to be Chris Rock to do his kind of bits?
That's what I
mean, is that a component? You can only rag on your own?
There are traditions, I think, that really dominate there, and then people blow them up. So, people like Richard Pryor and Eddie Murphy like that, they all had their little turn at blowing up some of these traditions and stereotypes. I think that's good, though. We go back and forth with that.
But I also think you have to consider people's intentions and the delivery and the... I think, I've seen plenty of comedians, different races, sexuality, gender, make fun of others, and in a way that, the intention is not...
It's a difference when you're sharing rather than putting somebody down, laughing at them. Sometimes people laugh at themselves,
I mean,
in ways that you can share.
Being gay, sitting in shows and watching other people make jokes, if they're not gay, it doesn't outrage me. It's either like, oh, well, that wasn't funny, like it was a poorly written joke. Yeah. I'm not,
Is funny the ultimate defense? If you're really funny, does that excuse everything? Is hackery the worst form of...
Absolutely. I think that's what I mean, is the intention and the delivery. It's like why it's all in the delivery.
Nothing worse than being mediocre.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think...
Kareem's going to be doing the touring company of Whiplash, right? Good job. The two worst words. Have you seen that one?
The drummer.
Yeah, the drummer. Wow. Mediocre. Two worst words.
Yes, exactly. No, I mean, what should the penalty be, right? If we agree that somebody did something bad, say because I think from Don Imus forward, the rule is just fire them, right? If somebody does something we find objectionable, everybody calls for their head. Should that be the rule?
I don't know. I think it depends on the person's motivation. Some people say things and aren't thinking, and they get slapped around very publicly and quickly, and then they learn something. It all depends on the person and just who they are.
I think that
how they handle it.
People can speak out of place, and I also think that people can change. I've seen so many people change. I know I've changed, and so I think if people make mistakes, you have to kind of look at what their intentions are and what their history is.
We're all, a lot better than we were 15 years ago.
Even 5 years. It's amazing how far we've come in 5 years, and you move things to a more evolved or politically correct place or accepting, and you think back. Well, it's because people have made these mistakes, and you've had these discussions, and you've been allowed to change. We're all changing.
I think it kind of gets to what you're saying. That's the heart of satire for me, is, are you making the comedy to have a point? Are you trying to make a point, or are you just, doing it for the sake of humor? Is there something, bigger at stake? We saw Jonathan Swift classically wrote, we should cook clean and eat Irish children. He was obviously not suggesting that we actually do that. So does that change it for you if you're trying to make a larger point?
Well, I mean, when I took my shirt off, I was trying to make a point, but I also thought it was very silly to take my shirt off and then do stand-up about airports. You know, there was just a silliness that I'm doing it for the joke, but I also am making a point in doing that, and I'm not sure if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because that's one of the things that we aspire to here is we want to do humor that has a point, that maybe leaves a bit of a bruise. One of our inspirations on the show was a show that's about 50 years old, over 50 years old, called That Was the Week That Was. It was a show that was hosted by David Frost, and it featured a blend of music, conversation, and frequently very pointed commentary.
Yeah, and while we were doing some research on the show, we came across an example from it that really took us aback. It was 1963, and a civil rights protester had marched from Alabama to Jackson, Mississippi, and was shot dead on the side of the road. A few days later, That Was the Week That Was featured a brutally satiric number dealing with that very topic. Here's a short clip.
I wanna go back to Mississippi, where the scent of blossoms kiss the evening breeze, where the Mississippi mud kinda mingles with the blood of the niggers who are hanging from the branches of the trees.
Mississippi is the state you've gotta choose, where we hate all the darkies and the Catholics and the Jews, where we welcome any man if he's white and strong and belongs to the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh, an uppity nigger going to cast his vote. I took that uppity nigger and I cut his goddamn throat.
Uppity, uppity.
Wow, I know, it's pretty edgy.
Edgy.
And right, well, in 1963, it was super edgy, but I mean, even for 2015, that's a lot. I mean, you wouldn't see that now on most TV.
Well, here's the point, Mark. You would never have to do a video like that today, would you?
I wanna go back to
Ferguson.
A 19-year-old Detroit woman was fatally shot.
The shooting death of a young black man on the street.
Epidemic of police violence.
There's another shooting of an unarmed black man.
Fatally shot by police holding a pellet gun.
The NYPD chokehold
And the killing of black teenagers.
hesitate to shoot you bravely in the back, so carry me home to
Sanford, Florida.
Staten Island.
Suburban Detroit.
Downtown LA.
Hammond, Indiana. South Carolina.
St. Louis.
Cleveland. Fatal police shooting of unarmed teenager.
killing of Michael Brown.
There will be no indictment filed that day.
American
So here's the thing about that video. When we first were planning to do it, we were going to end it with Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. And then we had to keep doing it again and again and again. We ended up doing like 10 versions because we had to add Michael Brown. We had to add
Tamir Rice,
Eric Gardner.
Yes.
You know, and it was amazing how that kept going on and on and on.
Now, of course, people are going to say, well, this isn't 1963 anymore. Things have changed. Things are better. And no one doubts that this isn't 1963, but we still have a long way to go. I mean, how do you make sense of where we are now and where we've come?
I think it has a lot to do with the tradition of our criminal justice system and the whole idea, even though the Dred Scott decision is no longer law,
Yeah.
it had the effect that it had on the criminal justice system is still in effect.
Absolutely.
So when black people get shot like that, the cops can manipulate the history of our criminal justice system so that these people did not have any right to life. And the fact that the cop felt that he had to take their life is just too bad, and they move on. There's never any prosecution. I think it's very ironic, like a lot of these things happen in places outside of the traditional South.
Yeah.
But the cases that happened in the South at least were prosecuted. And outside of the South, they're not even prosecuted in the North and in the West.
I run into that a lot. I was born in Mississippi, and when people ask, you know, oh, what was that? I was born in Jackson, and people, what was that like? That must have been horrible. And I travel all over the country, all over the world, and racism is everywhere. I mean, truly everywhere. And people that have come down the hardest on Mississippi, when I've inquired, oh, where are you from? Illinois. Yeah.
Right.
You know, and then you hear the story, and actually my grandmother was really racist, and I'm like, well, why are you pointing the finger like it's just the Deep South?
Yeah, there's enough racism to go around.
Yeah, plenty. Well, listen, guys, I thank you for sharing that, and thank you for being part of this panel. Everybody, thank Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Tig Notaro. Kareem's new book is Stealing the Game. Thank you much. Tig Notaro's going on tour. Be sure to go to tignotaro.com and find out where she's going to be coming to your town. Thank you guys so much. Over this way. Hey, thanks for watching.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click here for more videos.
And make sure to catch new episodes Friday at 9 p.m. on HuffingtonPost.com.